In the land of India lived a woman named Kisa Gotami. She had a son, an only son, who unexpectedly died. Kisa could not accept that he was gone, so she scooped him up in her arms and went from neighbor to neighbor asking for medicine. Well, everyone she talked to knew the boy was dead, yet they simply said, "I'm sorry, I don't have the medicine your boy needs." Well, one neighbor suggested that Kisa take the boy to a religious teacher in the area. Perhaps the teacher can do something to help. So off she went in the direction of the religious teacher, carrying the corpse. "Ah, I see," said the teacher, whom we know of as the Buddha. "Kisa, I know exactly what you need. What you need is a special seed. It's a mustard seed." Kisa thought, well, that should be easy. Everyone has mustard seeds lying around. But the Buddha said, wait, it's not just any mustard seed which will do. Rather, you need to get this mustard seed from a house which has never been touched by death, a household which has never had anybody die in it. So Kisa thanked the Buddha and hurried off to find the special seed. "Well, sure we have a mustard seed," a neighbor told her. "Let me go and get it." "But wait," Kisa interrupted, "has anyone in your household ever died?" "Yes, as a matter of fact." "Well, then thank you anyway. I need to find the seed elsewhere." Kisa went from house to house. Everyone had a mustard seed for her, but there was not a single household that had been untouched by death. Death was everywhere. And then it hit her. Death is everywhere. That was the Buddha's point. That was the Buddha's special medicine. His medicine was for Kisa to understand that death is just what happens. Suffering and grief are just what happen. It's just the way things are. Just accept it. Just the way things are. The Buddha wasn't the only one who looked at suffering in the ancient world and says just the way things are. If you move over from India in the east to Rome in the west, you'll see an empire which felt the same way towards suffering people. The Roman Empire saw the plague victim coughing, wheezing, gasping for breath, and what's worse is that his family has left him behind to die alone. The empire looks at the plague victim and says just the way things are. The empire sees the prisoners. One gets eaten by a lion in the Colosseum to the sound of laughter. Another gets slashed through by a gladiator to the sound of applause. The other gets pinned up on a cross like a bug in a bug collection. The empire watches these prisoners, often just for entertainment value. And yeah, it's a rough way to go, but it's just kind of the way things are. The Roman Empire sees the deformed baby boy dumped outside of town, screaming for mommy, yet completely abandoned. He'll go quiet soon. It's just the way things are. The Roman Empire sees poverty and says it's just the way things are. One Roman playwright put it this way. He said, "You do a beggar a bad service by giving him food and drink. You lose what you give and prolong his life for more misery." Fast forward to today, the dominant worldviews of the East still largely say that suffering is just what we should expect. Hinduism and Buddhism both teach that we shouldn't see anything intrinsically disturbing about suffering. Why not? Well, because suffering is a person's karma working itself out. This is retribution for what was done in a previous life. But something major happened to change the Western mindset. Today in the Western world, when we hear about tragedies, even in other parts of the world, we do not say, it's just the way things are. When you hear about life-threatening droughts, tsunami aftermath, on the other side of the world, we don't think just the way things are. So what changed? Why did we in the Western world go from looking at the suffering around us and saying, that's just the way things are, to where nowadays we hear about the tragedies and the atrocities and we have the fundamental conviction that this is not how things were meant to be? What changed us? One word: Jesus. When a woman lost her only son, the Buddha's answer was to teach her, this is just the way things are. When Jesus met a woman who had lost her only son, his answer could not have been more different. Luke chapter 7, verse 12 to 15 says, as Jesus drew near to the gate of the town, behold, a man who had died was being carried out, the only son of his mother. And she was a widow, and a considerable crowd from the town was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and said to her, "Do not weep." Then he came up and touched the bier, and the bearer stood still. And he said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." And the dead man sat up and began to speak, and Jesus gave him to his mother. See, when Jesus saw suffering and death, he didn't say, it's just the way things are. And why not? It's because Jesus knows better than anyone else that suffering and death are not the way things were meant to be. Think about it. Why did Jesus cry at the grave of his friend Lazarus when he was going to raise Lazarus within minutes? It's because Jesus knows better than anyone else how the world is really supposed to be. He helped create it. That's why Jesus turned funerals into parties. He taught crippled people how to dance. Blind people went away amazed at what they had just seen. When Jesus saw suffering, he didn't say, it's just the way things are. No, when Jesus saw suffering, he did something about it. And then he told us that if we're going to call ourselves Christians, we'd better do the same.